Hi, want to welcome Alexandra Burk to the show. Thank you for coming today.
Of course, Broderick, thanks for having me.
Alexandria Burk is a recent attorney. She's been admitted. You've been admitted for 2 years now.
Yeah, this is my second year.
Start at the beginning. When did you? Why did you? When did you first have the first thought that you wanted to become an attorney?
Honestly, my first thought was when I was in college. I was volunteering with some legal advocacy groups, specifically supporting the incarcerated community. So it was that. I was also going to business school at the time, and the legal issues that we would learn about when I was in business school were the most interesting to me. But I don't think I knew I wanted to be an attorney until I graduated from college. I was working. I was actually just a barista and was hustling, trying to figure out what the next thing was. And I was still volunteering at legal aid organizations in Oakland, supporting the incarcerated community. And it was working with the attorneys that volunteered their time, and honestly, how awesome they were. And like, I loved their ability to advocate for other people, and I loved their skill set. It just felt like the right path for me. I just really wanted to be like those amazing attorneys that I met in Oakland when I was, 21, 22. And then that's what motivated me to apply to law school.
Where did you attend undergrad?
So I went to a small school outside of Boston. It's called Babson College. It's a small business school. Not many people know it if you're not from the Northeast, but I'm not. I'm from Texas, but I really liked that that's all they do is it's just a business school. So I like that the education was very focused, and I liked their program because it was a focus on entrepreneurship, where I felt like other business schools where it was focused more on big business, where Babson was focused about teaching the students how to start their own businesses.
That makes sense. And then, so tell us a little bit more about like after you decided that you wanted to go to law school, what was your like next steps or your next course of action?
Sure. So I was picking up odd jobs. I was living in Oakland at the time, and I I took the LSAT. I was still a barista. I was just trying to figure it out. I was volunteering. I started working at a commercial real estate company. Really didn't like it. Then I was like, if I'm going to apply to law school, let me at least go try and find an attorney to actually try working for, to see if I actually like this and want to pursue this. This is expensive. It's time consuming. Is this really the decision I want? And that's when I met you, Broderick. I went online and saw a job posting for a litigation assistant, and interviewed with you. And honestly, it was through that job being your litigation assistant. I was so passionate about it. I loved it. I loved supporting you. And you were doing a lot of trials at the time. So we were prepping for trial. I was helping you with your slide decks. And I just really loved how you were so dedicated for advocating for your clients. It really inspired me. And then I knew that that was the path I want, because I had this amazing mentor and boss who was doing it, and I loved the practice that you were building.
Yeah, you were one of the best interviews that I've seen. Your interview skill set was top flight, was amazing, and I think at the time I'd actually hired someone else or committed to hiring someone else, but I'd interview you. And then afterwards, I was like, I brought you guys both on, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's quite an experience. So then, and then after you worked in my office, you ended up going to USF School of Law, correct?
Yeah. So right after I worked with you until law school started. So I think it was, 8 months or something like that. And yeah, I started USF law. I was looking at all the law schools in the Bay Area, and I got into USF, and I really loved the community there, which made that was the right decision for me. I toured all the law schools in the Bay Area, went up to Davis, and I saw everything here. And then I just loved the community at USF. The campus is gorgeous. I just like really loved that if I was going to be spending so much time on campus, you know, busting my butt to like work hard at law school, I really wanted it to be at USF.
Nice. So how would you compare taking your law school classes to the classes you took in undergrad?
I honestly, I cared a lot more in law school. I think the classes were a lot more rigorous. Obviously, is a ton of reading, and yeah, I think I had made so many mistakes in college, and I wouldn't say, you know, I experienced a lot of failure in college with like during those 4 years. I made a lot of mistakes like in classes, and I think it really taught me by the time I got to law school, like I knew how to not make those same mistakes. So it was really nice to be so focused when you got into law school and like going into these really difficult classes. Like I was so focused those first couple of years of law school. It really paid off, because then my last year, it felt like I could really enjoy that I like worked so hard the last 2 years. And I could have the internship I wanted. I wasn't stressed about my GPA or classes, and that was great. But you know, law school is very competitive, and it can be really hard for young women, especially because you have such bad imposter syndrome when you're sitting there. You know, you feel like, oh, I'm not smart enough to be here. I wasn't top of my class in college, but like, I don't know. At least I felt like with USF, like there were the right professors and other students there to like help get you through that. And I was lucky enough to have some great mentors while I was in law school to help with that.
Did did a lot of your professors at USF teach with the Socratic method?
You know, actually, I was surprised at how many did use the Socratic method, but I will say that like that makes you actually prepare for class. And I don't care what anyone says about, oh, we should do away with the Socratic method. If you know that your professor could call on you, you are going to work so much harder for that class than you would if you're like, oh, I know that professor's not going to call on me. Why would I finish reading? Why would I stress myself reading all the cases? But so I think there is something to that, you know, as much as people love to hate on the Socratic method.
Can you explain what the Socratic method is for the audience?
Of course. So, you know, when you're watching a movie about law school, oh, like Legally Blonde, if, you know, they talk about how students in law school, you like go into class and the teacher or the professor will call on you without any prior notice, and you have to like recite the facts of the cases that you were assigned, or tell your opinion on some holding in some other case, or like what you think about the discussion. And it's to force you to think quickly, creatively, and like you have to formulate a thought on your feet with no prior notice. And I think it's great training, especially, you know, I go to court for my current job, and you know, it's those moments that you don't see it at the time, but those are really what are preparing you for your career as a lawyer.
Right. Do you remember the first time you got called on?
Yeah, it was the first day of law school in my first class. I was the first person. I don't know if there's something about being Alexandra Burk, but it was the first class I ever attended, and I got called on for the first case. And thank God, because I had never prepared as hard for any class than that class. But yeah, that was terrifying. But you know, sometimes you just have to kind of like wing it, and it'll be okay. But oh man, like it really like, obviously they don't do that in college. In college, you're way more, I would say you're more checked out for your classes, and you can't do that in law school, at least at USF and with the professors that I had.
Yeah, at Santa Clara was the same way. I don't think I was called on the first day, but I remember the first time I was on call. I think it was like in a contract class. And, you know, it was kind of terrifying. It's not that bad in the grand scheme of things, but you know, at the time you're like nervous. You've never done it before. You don't know like what analysis he's looking for. You know.
Oh yeah, and you have to be ready to fail in front of your professor and your classmates, which I think that's the hardest part, right? Is like you're like, oh, I'm gonna say something stupid, and then everyone's gonna think I'm stupid, and I'm already having imposter syndrome. But you know, you kind of get over that, and then you realize that everyone feels that way. So just kind of like go with it and do your best.